All
Good
right.
evening, everyone. My name is Mark Schroeder, and I will be your meeting coordinator tonight, which means that I will be working on all of the Zoom issues. First, let me point to one particular thing. Our agenda can be located by going to our main website, simply clicking on the Members section, going down to the right-hand column under Flyers and Announcements, and then locating the agenda for 4.2.pdf. Should you be interested in following along. As meeting coordinator tonight, let me remind you of just a few things. I think everyone here has been through most of the meeting controls. I will be, again, the meeting coordinator. If you have any issues, feel free to chat. You also probably have my phone number. If you need it, I can put it into the chat just in case. With regard to mics, I'm going to try to leave everybody open as much as possible. If there's a lot of noise on anybody's particular microphone, I will turn those off. With regard to our timer, if you have the ability to do so, I sent out some things so that you can actually go in and select a gray background until the speaker is ready, then go to a green background, then go to yellow, and then go to red at the appropriate times. On the other hand, I don't believe Jody has the ability to do that. I'm not sure whether that's because of...
I can use this, red and yellow and green.
That looks good. Yeah, that looks good.
Those work as well. Perfect.
Okay.
Some people are limited in using that. I don't know whether it's bandwidth or whether it is because of something on their device or their computer. But if you can't, you can always use red, yellow, green written on cards, or if you happen to have red, yellow, green cards, that's great as well. Also note that there is a chat that is available at the bottom. When you open the chat window, you can chat to anyone or to individuals by selecting from the pull down. And for voting, we will choose someone who is going to get the votes. So you will send it directly to that person. Won't be anonymous, but they will at least be the only person that sees your votes. Also be prepared that I will interrupt a couple of times to remind people to pin speakers, etc. And with that, I will give the meeting over to our invocation and pledge.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another evening virtually of Dallas Singles Toastmasters, Coastal Toastmasters. I still can't say it right. And I hope everybody is safe and happy and healthy, living it out in the dream in your home and not having to go to work, at least for some of you. So I'd like us all to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have a flag. I thought about putting a flag on the screen, but I hadn't got that done yet. Anyway, y'all ready for the pledge?
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everybody. Our theme of the meeting tonight is called virtual travel. We're all stuck in our homes and having to spend a lot of time here and running out of things to do sometimes. Well, on the agenda, if you look at the bottom, I put a whole bunch of links there that y'all can go to and get to. And what they are links to virtual travel sites. You can go cruise some international museums. You can just go cruise castles. You can cruise virtual parks like Yosemite, things like that. And those are just kind of some options that I threw out there for y'all that maybe y'all can sit around and cruise through. I looked at a couple of them the other day and I thought it was kind of entertaining. Oh, there's one on gardens that some of them are just screenshots. Some of them are like doing Google Maps where you can walk down the road and you can just walk on through some of the sites and turn around and look back and forth. Oh, there's also one with rides. So if you're missing Disneyland, go to that one, and they've gotten 3D rides so you can ride along with them. So I just gave y'all a couple options here to maybe get out of the regular old routine that you're starting to form now. We're going to be here for at least a month. So something else that you can try. Because read all your books, just about time to get through bacon every time you turn around and eating. That was my biggest thing. It's like, oh no, stop eating. Here we go. So I'd like to welcome all of y'all, and y'all be safe. And now I'd like to go to our duty holders for this evening. And one at a time, I'll go through my duty holders and let y'all explain what your role is tonight. So let's go ahead and start with Jody. She is going to be our timer this week. So Jody, will you tell us the timer's duty, please?
Jody, you're on mute.
I forgot to unmute. Hi, I'm the timer today, and instead of using the modern technology, I decided to go with the traditional old-fashioned card. So this is green, and so for any speech, 5 to 7 minutes. I think we'll turn this up when it's 4.5, and 5 minutes. Sorry. And this is amber, and that's when you reach 5.5 minutes. And then this is red, and this is for you to say it's you either better wrapping it up. I believe it's 7 minutes. Right, so that's timer. Back to you, General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Jody. Our next duty holder for the evening.
John, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
For Jody, when you, I don't know if anybody else saw this, but when you hold the yellow card so close to the camera, it actually looks like green.
Oh.
I saw yellow until you get really close to the.
Yeah, it's fine at distance. When you get it too close, it goes into the shade and goes green.
Yeah, maybe I should.
So just hold the yellow when you do yellow. Just make sure you hold it back a little further.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, David.
Sorry, John. Back to you.
That's all right. Well, since you're talking, your duty tonight is both vote counter and posture bell. So why don't you explain your duties?
Okay, as posture bell, I'll be mainly obviously looking for the speakers in this. Look for distracting postures, playing with the hair or hands in pockets, things that distract from the speech. And even the people that are sitting down, if you're speaking like during tabletop topics and you're sitting down, if you play with your hair too, that will also distract from your speech. So be mindful, even if you're sitting, please be mindful of with your hands. And I'll give my report at the end of the meeting. As vote counter, we'll be voting for different sections of the meeting, best speaker, best table topics, and best evaluator, and the best of the big three. So when you're called upon to vote, please send me a chat, directly to me on who you want to vote for. Just so you know, best speaker, so-and-so, or best table topic, so-and-so, so forth. And I will tally those up and give notifications of the winners at the end of the meeting when called upon. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dagan. Our next duty holder for the evening is our grammarian, and that's going to be Dawn Levy. So Dawn, will you explain the role of the grammarian, please?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of any egregious misuses of the English language, as well as any luminous uses. As grammarian, it is also my duty to introduce the word of the day. For today's meeting, the word is opulent. Can y'all see this?
From there, yes.
Is that backwards?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Is opulent, which means luxurious, sleek, or affluent. An example of using the word opulent is, because the movie star made so much money, she was able to maintain an opulent lifestyle. Each speaker is encouraged to use the word of the day. In order to qualify for best table topic, you must use the word of the day in your response to the question. I will give a word of the day report and grammatical usage report when called upon at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Dawn. And our last duty holder for the evening is going to be the counter, and that's going to be Tanya Howard. So Tanya, will you explain the duties of the counter, please?
Yes, as an counter, I will be listening for ahs, ums, and other filler words as we're speaking. And should I ding? I don't have a bell, but I can say ding if that would be annoying to people. What do you
Just keep track of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll just keep track of it. Then at the end of the meeting, I will report how many people have used the filler words and ahs and ums. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tanya. All right. Now, we have 3 speeches tonight, so we're going to move quickly here into our prepared speeches. And our first prepared speaker tonight is going to be Nicholas Elwood. The title of his speech is Multi-Million-Dollar Baby. And I understand it was 4 to 6 minutes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Elwood.
That is correct,
Nicholas,
Mr.
right,
Toastmaster.
thank you, sir. All right, appreciate it.
Yep.
You are going to be evaluated by Mark Schroeder. So, Mark, will you tell us about any goals and stuff that Nicholas has for tonight?
Perfect timing. So, by the way, as the meeting coordinator, timers you're going to have to be able to see the timer if you happen to be a speaker. So, speakers, please remember to pin Jody, in your window, which you can do by locating their square, finding the ... and going down to pin, or put them in gallery view so that you can at least see the timer.
Great.
Nicholas, I'm assuming this is your icebreaker speech. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So this is going to be an icebreaker speech for Nicholas, which means that this is sort of a baseline setting. We're trying to see what skills Nicholas already has, as well as what skills Nicholas might benefit by improving on. So this will be an introduction of Nicholas to the club and get us an idea of where he is starting off in his speaking career.
All right, thank you, Mark. So now, without further ado, Nicholas Elwood, Multi-Million-Dollar Baby. Multi-Million-Dollar Baby, Nicholas Elwood.
Great. Good evening, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow members. I want to take the time and thank everyone present for letting me take the stage today and present my speech. I'm sure all of you will really enjoy what I have to say and hopefully have some really good takeaways from this. Firstly, I'd really like everyone to know I'm a work in progress. So bear with me when it comes to speech making. I'm also not really a multi-million-dollar baby. That's just the title of the speech. Although I'm a native, originally to Dallas, Texas, I was actually born in San Francisco on July 19th, 1994. My family and I then eventually moved to North Carolina for 1 year in 2000. Then actually making the move back to Dallas in 2001. After going through elementary school, middle school, and high school in Dallas, I had my fill of the city, and I decided that going to college here in Texas wasn't really my style. One of the last schools I eventually visited and chose to go to was College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina, as the name implies. Well, at Charleston, I took international business and I minored in Spanish. Really, through focusing in those fields, I was fortunate enough to be able to travel the world in different study abroad programs. My absolute favorite memory of traveling abroad was when I was in Morocco in 2014. After sightseeing really the top half of the country, hopefully you can see me there, our program spent a couple of nights in the Sahara Desert, really in the south of Morocco. And we were able to ride camels through sand dunes. The scenic views were absolutely breathtaking, but I can adamantly say to you all, never ride a camel again after that trip. Contrary to popular belief, they're one of the meanest creatures I've ever met. One that I rode actually bit me right there on my elbow. Traveling is my absolute favorite thing to do. I've been over 20 countries, and I'm a trilingual right now. After graduating from Charleston, I eventually came back to Dallas in 2017 to practice my not so lifelong goal of real estate. My primary reason for joining Toastmasters was because of my previous mentor in real estate for over 2.5 years. Over those years, I've been hyper-focused in commercial real estate, focusing really in the capital markets sector. I actually just recently left my mentor in late February. I'm about to start an opportunity with another firm right down the street in Preston Center. Although I'd actually left the company, we parted amicably, and there were so many valuable lessons and insights I've gained. You could call it my multi-million-dollar baby. One of those parting words of wisdom that he left me was the fact that he told me to join a Toastmasters club. At first, I was browsing and scrolling on a boring day in 2019, and I thought Toastmaster was an expert at making toast. I mean, let me ask you all, doesn't the word Toastmaster sound pretty akin and similar to a certain expert of bread? Little did I know, Toastmasters was actually a worldwide organization designed to help people excel in being thought-provoking and speech leaders. Being a part of an organization like that has the tools to help me succeed and in my or others' opulent life and business is really too good of an opportunity to pass up. I knew I needed to try this out. And hey, a great part about it all is the fact that there's a lot of room to network with other members. I think, lastly, that Toastmasters can really help me a lot in certain areas where I need improvement. I really know my strengths are being enthusiastic, organized with my time management, always looking to expand my skill sets, being over-communicative, unafraid of rejection, and I work very hard. Although they're really great strengths to have, I have a really key weakness, which is having empathy, which is also having great listening skills. Always had trouble with empathy. And listening is really the multi-million-dollar baby, you can say, of all traits to have in a sales type of business role. It shows that you're really attentive and that you really care about what the other person has to say. Although I've gotten a lot better, there's still a lot of room to improve. I remember actually one of my first client meetings I had with my partner, and I had the toughest time paying attention to what the customer was saying. I wasn't sure if it was because of his imposing demeanor, they were speaking way too fast, or if it was actually because I forgot to wear a belt. And that was really all I could think about during the meeting. And for God's sakes, we were talking about his multi-million-dollar babies in real estate. All I know is I got carried through that meeting literally like Bubba got carried by Forrest Gump in the movie Forrest Gump. In all, I really joining Toastmasters, especially this chapter, was really the right decision. Not only because my mentor implored that I do it, but because it's taught and teaches so many valuable lessons and success speech tactics. If you implement the lessons that it teaches and offer to practice, it's really beneficial in the long run. I mean, really being able to network with fellow members, practicing day-to-day situations can really only aid you in the real world. To you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Nicholas. That was excellent.
Thanks.
What's your third language?
It is Spanish. So English, French. So my mom is actually Belgian, so I speak French, and then Spanish. I've been learning Spanish probably since 6th grade. And I actually lived in Spain in 2014, so got to learn a little bit more on the fly there.
Cool. Well, thank you for letting us know about your life. Thought it was an excellent thing. And maybe I'll skip the camel if I ever get a chance.
Yeah, don't do it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Around the same time.
I'm sorry?
I was actually in Morocco around the same time on top of a camel as well.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's such a great country. It's one of my favorite countries by far.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I love languages too. I speak 4 and a half. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker this evening is going to be Rob Giles. And Rob's speech is Facts About Cats. And his evaluator is going to be Mark Sims. So Mark, will you give us the goals for Rob tonight, please, sir?
Tonight, Rob is speaking still under the presentation mastery path. This is project 2. And if you recall, Rob previously spoke on cats and I provided him an evaluation. And this is a follow-up speech where he will take the prior advice he got under consideration, apply it to a new speech. And so that is what I will evaluate, is basically Rob's follow-up from his prior speech. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. So without further ado, Rob Giles, Facts About Cats, 5 to 7 minutes. Is that correct, Rob? I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Okay. So Rob Giles, Facts About Cats. Facts About Cats, Rob Giles.
You all have heard, or hopefully you've heard, the word of the day, opulent. But I want to introduce another word, ailurophile. Ailurophile. Fellow Toastmasters, I am an ailurophile. I may not be an opulent ailurophile, but over the past couple of years, I have grown to be more of a lover of cats than I had been in the past. I've grown to be a lover of cats more so because a couple of years ago, a small, tiny little kitten came up to my door and looked at me with his big round eyes and asked me, in his heart, I believe, to take him in. And I did so. And he's been, at times, a little crazy. He'll wake me up in the middle of the night. Sometimes he uses the whole house as his own personal obstacle course. And at other times, though, he's a little bit more loving. He'll sleep on my lap. I'll find him on my chest when I wake up in the morning. So these are some of the things that I really love, and all of it is very interesting to me. I want to ask you a question. Cats, first, are the #2 pet that households have in the United States. So there's about almost 40 million households with cats. What I would like for you to do, if you could, is open up your chat and write down what you think is the pet that is in most households in the United States. And we'll get back to that a little bit later. Now, cats are domesticated, mostly, and that's really what I'm going to be talking about, is domesticated cats. There's over 60 breeds of domesticated cats out there. 60 breeds, can you believe that? Very interesting to me, entirely. I didn't know, I wouldn't have imagined so many breeds. But cats have been around for a long time, and that could be how they built up how many breeds they have at this point. I'm not exactly sure, but it could be. Cats, you may have known that cats are known to have been with pharaohs, and even on some walls painted in pharaoh's quarters, there were pictures of cats or paintings of cats, and those paintings actually showed collars. And that's one of the reasons that we know that they were domesticated way back then in about 2300 BC. But that wasn't the earliest time. It went back even further to about 7500 BC on a Greek island named Cyprus, where they found remains, skeletal remains of a cat and a human being, presumably the owner. So domesticated cats were way, way back in 7500 BC. Can you imagine that? So they've been around for a long time. But when they start out, they're born and they're cute and they're playful and they're silly. But as they age, they actually age differently than us. Some of you may know dogs age approximately 7 years for every one of our years, every trip around the sun. But cats age a little bit differently than that. The first year, they age 15 years. The next year, you can add on another 9 years. So after 2 years, they're about 24 years old as far as what we would be. After that, a little bit more consistent, talking about 4 years for every year. So 4 years, 4 years, 4 years after that. If you own a cat, or you know somebody who owns a cat that's about 20 years old, that cat is approximately 96 years old, or they would be 96 for us. Can you imagine? That's almost 100 years old. Wow, that's long lived, right? So how do they do it? How do they live so long? Well, I've read and I have some thoughts about that. Actually, 3 thoughts that I want to bring up today. The first one is that they sleep a lot. They sleep up to 16 hours every day. Now, for me, that's the life. I want to live that lifestyle for sure. The second thing is that they groom a lot as well. 30 to 50% of the day, you will find them grooming, cleaning themselves. So pretty good hygiene. And the third thing involves purring. Now, most of us might know or think that purring is a sign of happiness and contentment, and it can be. But there's actually indications and benefits beyond that. There's also things that are a little bit negative. Some actual stress can cause purring. Hurt, when they're hurt, they have pain, they can cause some purring. And then also, even if sometimes a cat is giving birth, it may be purring. Now, you may relate that and say, well, that's pain, Rob, that's pain. So those are a few things, but there's one other thing that purring can do, and that can help with their health. It actually is said to improve their bone density. So cats live a little bit longer, and from what I just said, my feeling is this, at least at the moment, is that hygiene and rest, and then also purring is what helps them to live longer. So what do I mean by long? Well, a lot of cats will live to be 15, 18 years old, right? And that's long. A little bit more will go ahead and live to maybe 20 years. But there was a cat named Cream Puff who lived beyond 20 years, beyond 25 years, past 30 years. Cream Puff lived to the sweet old age of 38. Can you imagine that? Now, if you do the math and you do the calculations, that comes out to over 165 years for you and me. Imagine that. Now, we would love to live that long, right? Well, maybe. But we can live longer, and it's shown that we can live longer if we have cats. Cat owners have reduced stress. Their blood pressure is lower. They are at less risk of a heart attack, of a stroke, and cardiovascular disease. So cats can help us to live a healthier and perhaps longer life. So cats are good. They live a long time, and I think so because of the hygiene, because of their grooming, and their purring, and their rest. They have been around forever, since about 7500 BC, and they help us to live a peaceful life. So let's go back to the question at the beginning of the speech. What is the pet that is in the most households in the United States? Now, I don't know if you've answered. I see some answers there, but I haven't looked at them yet. If you said dogs, you are absolutely correct. Dogs are in the most households in the United States. But cats, after tonight, perhaps you will be a little bit more of an ailurophile, a lover of cats. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Rob. And as a cat lover myself, I think it's wonderful. Cats are great things to have. Now, I appreciate that. Now let's move to our third speech of the night. It's been a while since we've had this many speeches on a given night. It's kind of cool. Our third speaker this evening is Indu Pimenton, and she is going to be evaluated by Jody Liu. So Jody, will you explain goals for Indu tonight, please? Unmute, Jody.
So the menu she's working on is entertainment speaker menu, and I've done this menu. It's a very fun menu, and the project 4 is the dramatic talk. And the speech goal is to develop an entertaining dramatic talk about an experience or incident and include vivid imaginary characters and dialogue. And she wants to deliver the talk in an entertaining manner, which can be quite challenging with Zoom. Well, and it's a 5 to 7 minute speech as usual. Yep. Okay, back to you, Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Jody. So our next speaker, Indu Pimenton, A Swamp to Remember. A Swamp to Remember, Indu Pimenton.
Thank you, Toastmaster. On a beautiful sunny spring day, a group of friends decided to go on a picnic. The weather was perfect. Bright blue skies with just enough white fluffy clouds. A light breeze that played with the plants and my cute spring dress. And the prettiest sun with ever so gentle warmth against my skin. We were 6 of us who decided to go for a picnic to the Caddo Lake State Park. And we took along 2 furry friends with us. Caddo Lake State Park is about 3.5 hours from Dallas, east towards Shreveport, Louisiana. We left about 8 in the morning and we stopped for an hour for a scrumptious country breakfast. And we reached our destination around 1 p.m. As we drove further and further into the park, we realized this should be called a jungle. We kept going further, finally found us a very pretty picnic spot next to the Big Cypress Bayou. Now, this bayou looked as beautiful as it was terrifying. For someone who's seen movies like Anaconda, Lake Placid, Piranhas, you would know what I'm talking about. And I felt like I was smack down in the middle of the swamp in those movies. But, you know, with the right company, the picnic was opulent. We had a great time. We had a great lunch. We played games. We entertained our little pups. And when I said we were 6 friends, I meant 3 couples. So we did take our nice relaxing walks along the bayou. It was about evening, around 4 p.m. And since we were in the heart of the jungle, it got dark sooner. And the news told us that an unexpected thunderstorm was heading our way. So we quickly packed and we were heading to the car when a friend of mine said, "Hey, look at that. That's a pier right there. Let's go and get some good pictures." And as a fan of the famous Instagram, I looked at the opportunity to take good pictures and we decided to go to the pier. We packed our car with all our picnic items and all of us went to the pier. And we decided to sit at the edge of the pier. Now, this pier was not a high pier. It was a very low one. So the moment we sat down, our feet immersed slightly into the water. I was holding the leash of our pups, and we all sat down, hand on each other. And just as I looked at the camera, I felt this sudden force throw me into the water. I have never felt this helpless ever in my life. I struggled and I struggled to get to the surface of the water, but it just seemed so far. And suddenly, I felt a swirl around my leg. I struggled harder. I pushed, but I just couldn't get to the surface. And all of a sudden, bam! It tangled around my legs and started pulling me down. I was so scared. I struggled even more. And all I could think was it that snake? Or was it the crocodile? Or was I going to get entangled in water plants and then become dinner to the snake or the crocodile? This feeling was so overpowering that it took over my will to struggle. And all of a sudden, I started feeling ripples from both the sides. These ripples kept growing smaller and smaller, which meant something was coming at me faster. I was convinced it was one of those two. And as I struggled a little more up, I felt hold of the edge of the pier. I held on to it and I struggled a little more to get myself off, but that good lunch and all those picnic snacks were not helping. I pushed even more, and just as I was about to push one last time, I felt a hand come and save me. I held onto that hand. With one final push, I pushed myself out of the water and came back onto the pier. And not before looking right at those hungry eyes. Once I was back up on the pier, I was trying to compose myself. I was freaking out. And that's when I realized I had 5 other faces laughing at me. Was me struggling a joke to them? Was my life and my struggle of getting out of that pier or the swamp ridiculous to them? And that's when things started coming back. What was that force that sent me into that swamp first? As I gathered myself and asked them questions, they gathered themselves and started answering back. It was 2 of my friends who decided to push me into the swamp. And turns out I was not further than a couple of inches from the surface of the swamp. The entire time that I thought I was helpless, I was holding on to the hands of the 2 friends who pushed me in. And I was actually making it difficult for them to pull me back up because I was struggling a lot. Turns out, in that situation, I freaked out so bad that I started imagining things that were not real. I really thought this is how I was going to go. I did not know how to react to this prank, and they did not expect their prank to end this way. We got back into the car and had a silent road trip back home. So, did I mention I knew swimming all along. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. That was very, very good. I appreciate that. So, when an alligator. So, all right. Thank you. Now, if we could move on to Jody. Jody, did everybody qualify in time? Swim at your own risk. There we go. Jody, timers report, please.
Hi, this is timers report. We have one disqualification, but the other two are good. And the first, Nicholas has his speech is supposed to be 4 to 6 minutes, and he had about 5:10. And Rob, when his speech is supposed to be 5 to 7 minutes, and then he went for about a little bit over 8 minutes. And her speech went about 7 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Jody. So we have 2 people qualifying tonight for best speaker. And so now if you would take a moment and vote for who you thought did the best speech tonight between Nicholas and Indu. Also, if you have comments that you'd like to share with Nicholas, Indu, or Rob, please just put it in the chat window or send them an email and let them know what you thought of their speech. All right?
And as
Thank
meeting
you.
facilitator, who are we sending those to?
To Nicholas. If you want to make a comment to Nicholas, chat with Nicholas. If you want to send a comment to Indu, send it to Indu.
With regard to the voting.
Oh, to the voting, Dagan is our vote counter, so please send your votes to Dagan.
Thank you.
And now while we're waiting, I just want you to know that, like I said, the links I have maybe will help you pass some time, take you to a different place, and get you out of your living room for a little bit. And now I'd like to move on to the second portion of our meeting, which is table topics. And tonight our table topics host is going to be Lee King. So Lee, please take over.
Good evening, everybody. This is Table Topics. This is the impromptu speaking portion of the meeting. Oh, good, I am unmuted. Okay. Just before going into Table Topics, though, I thought that I know a lot of y'all have been asking how Lauren has been doing and everything. I broke her out of jail on Monday, so this is proof. There she is. Lauren. There we go.
Hey, Lauren.
Hello.
Hi.
So we'll let her speak towards the end of the meeting, but she did want to join us. Let her say hi. Anyway, the key to Table Topics is speaking for a minimum of 1 minute, no more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You do have to use the word of the day. So let's hear from our grammarian a reminder of the word of the day.
Word is opulent, meaning luxurious or affluent.
Okay, so please remember that you do have to use the word opulent during the table topics. Just before the meeting, this evening, Clay Jenkins came on and reminded everybody that Hobby Lobby is not an essential service. With this in mind, my first question is, what is a non-essential service that you feel like should be considered an essential service during this COVID-19? Mark Sims.
Speakers, please remember to pin Jody as your timer so that you can see her.
I actually saw an article a few days ago in the Dallas Morning News where the columnist Robert Wilonsky had a very poignant article about a man that owned a comic book store. Now, it didn't sound like an opulent operation. It sounded like a shoestring operation. but the gentleman had a great deal of comic books, old ones for sale. And the store owner understood the fact that he was not an essential business and that he didn't sell food, medicine, something that was life-sustaining. But the columnist, and I sympathize with this, thought that someone that provided the public that type of enjoyment was, in a sense, essential to the culture of the city. So I totally get it that we need to social distance and that a comic book store won't put food on the table, but it does put joy into our lives. And it's definitely a shame that that has to temporarily be out of business. Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you. All right, next thing that I thought of is fairly close to my parents' house. There's an adult play store. I'll let you all figure out what that is and what they sell, but they sell adult toys, which makes me wonder if they would be considered essential or not. Mark Schroeder, are adult toy stores essential?
Oh man, why did you give me this one? Interesting. Is an adult toy store essential? Right now, with everything that is available on the web and all the places that you can order stuff from on the web, I think I would actually have to say probably not. There are too many other places where information and items are available through the mail and other venues without having to go to a store. That would probably be my opinion. Now, not only that, if you go online, you have a much larger selection in many cases. Not that I would know anything about this, of course, but you have a much larger selection. Some of the choices are a lot more opulent than you might even find locally. Perhaps even better bargains. I can't see that that is necessarily something that should be kept open at this point in time with all of the availability. And if it's really an issue, we can find somebody to Zoom bomb us. We can solve it like that, I suppose, if we have to. But I think that's one business that I would probably shut down for right now, if it were me. Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you. I think with every major event in history, something has changed, and it's marked by that. So for example, shortly after World War II, you had baby boomers, you had other things. It just kind of makes me wonder, 50 years from now, do you expect another baby boom or something else that will significantly change our lives after all of this is over? Us being in quarantine for a month and a half, 2 months, who knows how long. Tanya.
Thank you, Table Topics Master. I think in 1 year we're going to have, or 9 months, we're going to have a baby boom after all of this quarantine time, all of us being at home together, that we will see the effect of this pandemic and our shelter in place with a new baby boomers generation coming up soon. But it's interesting that I'm finding out that Bill Gates, I believe, predicted about 5 years ago that this pandemic was coming. And so I think history shows over time that these types of situations will occur again in the future. I'm not sure if it will be 50 years from now. The more we're the world is getting closer now in so many different ways. And so maybe it will be 25 years from now, but hopefully we'll, in a more opulent society, will be better prepared for this type of situation. And who knows what the end results will be, but I guess we should not be surprised in the future when we have a similar situation again. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right. Time for just one more question. And I have to wonder if, given more time at home, which we all have, you begin to reflect on things that perhaps you could start doing to improve your life, or find other forms of enjoyment that perhaps you had not explored through self-exploration, which begs the question, have you set any specific goals for self-enrichment while you're in quarantine? And if so, what is your goal that you hope to achieve while you're in quarantine? Dawn.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Have I set any goals for myself while I am in quarantine? Let me say, first of all, nothing opulent for sure. I've also thought about setting goals, but I have decided this time is hard enough, and I am not going to let myself down by setting goals that I probably will not achieve. I have set some ambitions for things to do just so I don't lose my mind, but I don't know that I would actually call them goals. So I have things that I want to do, like there's books, of course, like everybody, that I bought and waited to read. I did a puzzle with my kids. I don't know the last time we did a puzzle, but I was thinking of doing another puzzle. I've nearly done watching the series Hunters. I want to watch the movie Just Mercy. I will work in my yard. I'll play with my dog. I think one goal is, now that I think about it, is to not go on so many walks. I didn't really realize we weren't just supposed to be walking around the neighborhood, but I heard we weren't even supposed to be walking around the neighborhood. And yesterday I brought my dog on 6 walks. So my goal is for maybe my neighbors not to think I'm a complete nutcase, so I better quit walking so much. So I would say that is my main goal, is really to keep my wits about me, but nothing opulent, nothing that is unachievable, I would say. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our Table Topics contestants for this evening. At this time, I will ask for a timer's report. Did our Table Topic speakers qualify on time?
Yes, all of our table topics people qualified tonight. Mark has 1 minute and 12 seconds. Mark has 1 minute and 17 minutes. Tanya, 1 minute, 20 seconds. And Don, 1 minute, 29 seconds.
All right, great. Everybody qualifies on time. And Grammarian, did everybody use the word of the day?
I think I dropped the ball on this. I was so curious listening to Mark Sims talking about were comic books an essential place, like hanging on. Is that true? I don't know. Everybody else definitely did.
I did, John. Yeah.
Yes,
did?
everybody did.
Okay, everybody did.
Okay, at this time, let's call for a vote of the person that you felt did the best job between Mark Sims, Mark Schroeder, Tanya, and Dawn, and send those over to Megan, please.
And please, if you're voting for one of the Marks, please make sure you say Mark Sims or Mark Schroeder.
And at this time, I will now call up our general evaluator, who's general evaluator?
Tanya Howard.
Tanya.
Good evening. As a general evaluator, I will introduce the evaluators for our speeches and give them an opportunity to evaluate our speeches, our speakers. And the first evaluator for our speaker who evaluated Nicholas, was it Mark Sims? No.
Mark Schroeder.
Oh, Mark Schroeder. Sorry, Mark Schroeder.
Thank you for a wonderful speech tonight, Nicholas. I love the strong start that you got off to. I'm going to evaluate you tonight by the 3-to-1 method, although it's probably really more like 3.2 or 3.5 to 1 method. What I want to start off with was I thought that you were very comfortable up on stage, such as the stage is. You had a very comfortable and conversational style, which I really do like. It is difficult for people to pull that off in their first speech. You had a very good use of gestures, particularly hand gestures. I'll address another thing about that later, but the gestures that you did, they were meaningful, they were well-timed, they went with what you were saying very well, and they were illustrative of what you were trying to talk about. So all of that, very good, especially for a first speech. I like that you integrated humor into the speech, that you had a couple of places where you did use humor. One of them, of course, was about the camel and how mean they are. And we even got a little laugh out of you, not to mention everybody else that was, at least everybody else that was off of mute. The fourth or 0.2 or 0.3, you managed to work the word of the day in. A lot of people have that first icebreaker speech so well memorized that they're not changing a word. They're not going to change a word at all. And the fact that you work the word of the day in, that's an additional plus. A couple of things that I think these are more than anything else considerations or things to think about. Mm-hmm. While your gestures were very good, there's nothing wrong with your gestures. The one thing that I did notice is they do have a repetitive nature to them over time. I noticed in particular you happen to have a touching this hand. I have to raise my hands a little bit higher than you have them, but touching your hands together in particular manners that in a 4 to 6 speech, probably not a big deal. But if you were doing a 30-minute speech or a 30-minute presentation and you did the same hand gestures over and over, I think people would start noticing the repetition. So just watch that and be cognizant of that. But you did have some very good gestures during it, because you had the one about, it was the top half of the country and scrolling through the browsing and all of that. I thought those were very good. The second thing that you could consider, you had some vocal variety. There were spots in your speech where you had good vocal variety. There were other spots where it was perhaps a little bit too similar, not enough variety. And I'm thinking both in terms of using changes of inflection. You didn't go up and down in your voice a lot. And you do have about the same rate in your voice. The good news is that sounds very professional. Let me give you an example though of, there was a lady that came in to teach a class for us, and she came in, she was bouncing, "Hi, my name is," and we're going to go through, and very bouncy, lots of inflection in her voice. And she said 2 days later in the same class, "I did that because we know you guys. And if it had been another class, I would have come in very, very much lower." So just be cognizant of it. But I really love to finish, I love the multi-million-dollar baby that you reemphasized over and over. Great personal disclosure. I want to hear more camel stories. And the motivation that you were going through for this, I think, is excellent. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. And Rob was our second speaker, and he was evaluated again by Mark Sims.
And Rob, I'm going to evaluate you by the use of the 3-2-1 method, where I'll discuss 3 things I liked, 2 things to work on, and 1 thing that I really liked. Now, given that a few weeks ago when I evaluated you previously, I had a couple of recommendations that you followed up on. Obviously, yeah, I like that. For example, you put much earlier in the presentation the question about the most common type of pet. And then you, and I'll get to this in a minute, but you brought that back at the end. But you did bring that up into the conversation earlier on, which was good. And then also near the end of your speech, you went over the list of health benefits from the cats and used that as a good conclusionary comment. I also noted another thing I liked was good gestures all throughout, expansive gestures. And then at one point where you were indicating the small size of the kitten that came to your door that basically adopted you, that was very effective. And then also I liked, this was a strength previously, was a strength of speech, the very good detail, lots of good historical information on cats, such as their ages, how long they've been recorded in history. So good documentation, good research. As far as what you can work on, near the end, of course, I noted that you listed the health benefits of cats, but you also started to repeat some earlier points about the cats sleeping a lot and having great hygiene and purring, which is good information, but it's repetitive and at least partially contribute to going a little over on time. And then also, and I could have brought the same point up previously, but what would really help knock this speech out of the park would be maybe more detail on how the owning the cat had benefited you. And you made reference to how generally we all get the health benefits. And you mentioned that the cat wakes you up. But maybe, for example, you feel healthier, you feel more calm, or maybe you've been able to establish relationships with other cat owners. Something like that that can make it a little more personal on what this has meant to you. And then what I really liked was the connectivity between some of the earlier comments and the end of the speech. For example, at the end of the speech, you brought back up your original question on the most common type of pet. So I like that linkage between the first and the last. And then you started off the speech noting that you were a cat lover, and then that's how you ended it, as that you were a lover of cats. So I really enjoyed that connection, and I think it benefited the speech conclusion. So thank you again, and maybe you can give the speech a third time and have us standing up and cheering. It's for general evaluator.
Thank you, Mark. And our third speaker was Indu, and I believe she was evaluated by Dakin.
Jody.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, Jody, evaluated by Jody. Thank you. Sorry, I can't.
Yes, let me write down this one first. Okay. Okay. Okay, so tonight I'm going to give a speech evaluation for, first of all, I want to say this is a very, very interesting manual. It's entertainment speech, and it's not easy because you have to be able to make your guests feel like very entertained in a very short amount of time. And given what's going on right now, it's really very challenging. I'm going to evaluate her using my own patented method, and it's called ABCS method. A stands for attention, B stands for body, C stands for content, and S stands for sale. Let's talk about the attention first. I really like how you grabbed our attention. You know, that's at the very beginning. You grabbed our attention by start very slowly, and you use your eye contact. You look at every one of us on the screen. As I said, that's not easy. And I like how you talk like slowly like this. So that grabbed our attention. And another thing that really grabbed our attention is this story. It's picnic and the prank. Obviously, right now, everybody is like being trapped at home and picnic, and that's something like we're like, oh man, that's so nice. And then you also talked about this prank, and it's a very, very interesting story, and that's how you got our attention. And now, body. And with body, I meant you have great body movement, and not only that, your vocal variety is something I really like. As I mentioned earlier, I like how you talk very slow and emphasize each word. And that's something, again, help you to get your audience attention. What I really like is also your body movement, because you're very conscious that we're in this confined space and you're not like jumping up and down and here and there. You actually move like in front of your camera, you move like within this frame, which is very helpful in under the circumstance. Thank you, timer. And the next is content. Content is what I meant is usually that's the soul of the speech. And that's something I think you can improve a little bit, because you have a good story. Now let's think about how do you make this story more profound, because you want your audience at the end of the speech to be able to get something out of this. And that's one. And another thing is strong content. This is a funny story, so you can actually incorporate some exaggeration, like comedian, right? They make a little story, but they exaggerate with something that are just like so out, and then they make people laugh. You're very good at putting this mental picture in your mind, but exaggerate a little bit, make your content even more interesting. And I think with that, I covered both content and the sale. Actually, that's the sales part, like exaggerate and make sure like you sell the thing, and you make your audience be very, very interested. And at the very end, I think with every speech sale, I also talk about that's the beginning. You want to make the beginning and ending interesting and try to tie those two together. And that's my evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll call for the timers report. A timer, did everyone qualify?
The first two both qualify, and one is 2 minutes and the other one is 2 minutes, 50 seconds.
And Rob is giving a thumbs up that Jody also qualified. So we'll take a vote now on our evaluators. Mark Schroeder, who evaluated Nicholas, Mark Sims, who evaluated Rob, and Jody, who evaluated Indu. If you will send your vote to Dagan Newland, we'll go ahead and take a vote for the best evaluator. So as a general evaluator, it's my opportunity now to discuss our evaluation of our meeting tonight. We started about 6:50, which considering we want to get everybody a chance to get logged in, I think it was a sufficient amount of time for us to get started with our meeting. And it was great that everyone was already prepared with their roles before the meeting even started. So we were able to hit the ground running with no problems trying to find substitutes. Then considering we had 3 speakers tonight, it's just 8 o'clock and we are doing a great job with completing our meeting as well in a timely manner. And so this has been a very well planned and run meeting. Mark Schroeder did a great job of helping to facilitate this meeting and even giving us some helpful hints to make sure that we are using our Zoom etiquette and that we understand the controls that we needed to use for the evening as well. And so congratulations team, and great job with how this meeting went tonight. So now I believe we will have duty reports. Is that correct? Okay, so we will start with I'll continue it with the ah counter, and I feel like that we did very well with the ahs. I could hear myself saying a couple of ahs myself tonight, but John Vessels, I heard 2 ahs, Jody 1, and Don Levy, you had 2 ahs as well. But everyone else did a great job and they spoke without using ahs or ums and filler words. So great job, keep that up. What about our grammarian?
Dawn.
Don, you need to.
Sorry. I didn't catch it. There was nothing wrong or nothing bad to note. I actually pulled up on the internet what I was actually supposed to be looking for. Because I closed it. Let's see, like proper sentence construction, improper verb use, improper pronunciation of words. I didn't hear any of that. The only things I noted were positive with word choices. Like Nicholas had a nice array of words: empathy, opposing demeanor, implored, beneficial. Rob, clearly with his poster board, I don't know how to say that word exactly, ailurophile, something like that.
Ailurophile.
Ailurophile. Okay, and then you threw in opulent. I doubt you had planned to use that. And do you as well use that spur of the moment? So I was impressed by that. Back to you, Tanya. I really don't have much more to say there.
Okay, great. And Dagan was our posture monitor.
Yes, I didn't really see too much of bad posture for what I could see. Although I did want to add on for Nicholas that when you're doing your speech, the very top of your head was at the very top of the screen. So maybe if you were made a little bit further back, it'd been made a little bit better. But other than that, it was really good. And Mark already touched on the other things that I had wrote down too. And Indu, you touched your nose during your speech, and also, I saw some good hand gestures. But if you also, if you were a little further back and could see a little bit more of you, those hand gestures would have been a little bit more powerful. But other than that, everybody did pretty good. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Great, thank you. At this time, I will ask for a vote for our big three. Our Toastmaster for the evening is John Vessels. Our table topics was Lee, and then I as the general evaluator. If you will send your vote to Dagan for the big three, and then I'll turn the meeting over to our president, and then we'll, Dagan can share the votes at the end of the meeting.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, just a few things, not a whole lot in the way of business, but first, I just thought I would introduce our one guest for this evening, Lauren.
Hello.
Who was our area governor up until about December. So anyway, she's, like I said, she's been really sick for a long time, but she's home now, and she wanted to kind of check in and see how y'all are doing. And so I didn't know if she wanted to share anything with the group.
Well, thank you for having me, and so you guys are doing great with the Zoom meeting. That is very strange to me because Toastmaster, we usually stay in one room and we talk, but this is very nice too, that we're able to connect like this. But yeah, I'm glad to be in the meeting. Well, have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Thank you, Lauren.
Good to see you, Lauren.
So maybe I can get her hooked over the next month and come join us more. We'll see.
Yep.
All right. Well, just a couple of other brief things. First of all, next week is going to be a little different, a different type of meeting. It's not going to be the traditional flow. And that's actually going to be because Jody's going to be doing one of her projects for ACG, which I believe after she finishes her ACG, well, after she finishes this project, she'll actually get her DTM. So I thought would give Jody just a couple of minutes if she just wants to kind of briefly tell us what to expect next week and as far as the meeting, and if there's anything that she needs us to do to help prepare for next week's meeting.
Unmute, Jody.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't really prepare. I didn't expect this. But first of all, I think I might have a little bit more project to do before I can finish. I miscalculated that. So probably after this, I have a couple more things that I need to do before I can complete the whole curriculum. And I think this project is part of this leadership communication. It's called the Success Leadership Series, and this is the old manual. And the project I'm doing for next session is called Working in the Team Environment. And it's very long, but I think I can cut it short. There are different topics. So I don't think we need to, I don't think we need to prepare too much, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a short speech, but mainly I want to make this fun by playing some games. We do have there are different exercises in the manual, but I'm going to select those exercises that are more fun for everyone. And then obviously we're not going to do a game where people are running around in the room because we can't do that, but I'll think about some other format where we can play the games or doing the exercises. Thank you.
You're welcome. Please let us know if there's anything that you need help from us.
Yeah.
And in particular, Jody, I had heard that you might or might not need breakout rooms. Are you anticipating the need for breakout rooms?
Yeah, here they do have, I think instead of breaking into two group, I thought about it, which is too hard. I think probably we'll just have 2 people chat in private. So that's one group, right? Instead of breaking us into 2 groups, which is a lot harder, I'll probably just ask like 2 people to form a group so you can do your private chat. And that way we can have some sort of groups instead of just breaking the whole group into 2.
Okay.
Right? We'll have mini groups, yeah.
Because in theory, this does support breakout rooms, but of course we've never tried it. And so who knows how well it would work. We would need to try that between now and then if you wanted to go that direction. I'd be willing to spend some time trying it if you want to. It's up to you.
It actually works really well. Lauren and I are part of a group that has done a group breakout, and it really is a great way. You can actually pre-assign people to groups, and then you send us away, and then we would be like, if you put Mark Schroeder, us, and you in one room, then it would only be the 3 of us that could see each other, and then you can call everybody back into the general room after a certain amount of time. So it actually does work very well on Zoom.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah. So maybe Mark, I can reach out to you later to figure out how to do these.
Yeah, we ought to try it. As the host, I'm probably the person that actually has to set them up, I will bet. But that's not a problem. I could probably also make somebody the co-host, make you the co-host if you wanted to do it, but it doesn't really matter who does it, I don't think. I can also work with Lee if he's done it to find out where the magic is if I can't find it myself. That'll work.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, just I guess Mark and Jody, if y'all want to just set up a time that works for y'all, then maybe between Lauren and myself and between the 4 of us, we can kind of do a dry run. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Does anybody? Dues. Don't forget, if you haven't paid, you do have until the end of April to pay your dues. They've extended the deadline. Anything else?
What might do is if we had the receipts sent out, or the invoices, I should say, sent out.
Oh, I think Dagan's been sending those out.
Okay.
Yeah. I need to update them to go ahead and keep sending them through the end of next month, because the last one was actually sent a couple of days ago, and we did have somebody pay on that. Actually, Sean paid on that last time it was sent out, but I need to re-update it so it'll keep sending y'all reminders till the end of April. And I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay. I didn't remember getting one, but I think I've already paid, and that may be why.
Yes. Yeah, you've already paid.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything else?
Not that it matters, but I did get an email from Ozona Grill saying that they were closed for the month.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they're anticipating not being open until May at this point.
Okay. So even if some strange thing happens.
Oh, I'm sure if they really got lucky and could open early, I'm sure they would. But at the moment, they're not anticipating that happening.
Okay. I'm not surprised. I think they must made most of their sales off of their bar, and if you can't sit and enjoy a drink at the sports bar, probably not going to be going.
Yeah.
Well, they're open for takeout.
I think, yeah, that they probably are still, I may have misspoken, but they're, from a standpoint of having the dining rooms and everything open for us, we're on hold. I think they are open for takeout.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay. You must go there quite a bit, John.
Well, no, but I drive down past them regularly, and they have like a little kind of lemonade stand or something out there right in front of their entrance. And I saw Isaac out there the other day with them. But you can go up there and pick up your order at the outside the place.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. Jason's has started doing that too. They've actually got a thing out in front of Jason's with the phone number for curbside delivery. Order the app or online, and they'll bring it out to you.
Wow.
Yeah, down the street, Cafe Brazil and stuff have got barricaded lines, kind of area where you can just drive up and they'll bring your food out to you, drop you.
Very cool. All right, does anybody else have anything? Otherwise, we will hear from our vote counter. All right, vote counter.
Okay, so the best speaker tonight is going to be Nicholas. So yay.
Thank you.
Our best table topics is going to be Mark Sims. Our best evaluator is going to be Jody. Yay. All right, and the best of the big three is going to our general evaluator, Tanya. All right, so there you are.
All right, well, thank you, and everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Be safe.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Stay safe.
If there is no objection, I will
Stay
stop the
healthy.
recording. Stopping the recording now.